One of the most terrifying things I read about as a kid was the case of the moving coffins. It doesn't get any scarier than the thought of the dead thrashing around in their coffin and somehow moving it inside a crypt. The story began on the Caribbean island of Barbados in the early 1800s with the Chase family burial vault. Thomas Chase was a very rich man, and his wealth was exceeded only by his cruelty, treating both his slaves and his family with shocking brutality. Perhaps because of this, in 1812, his 12-year-old daughter committed suicide by starving herself to death. Her body was sealed in a heavy lead coffin and placed in the vault. She joined the remains of her 2-year-old sister, who had passed away in 1808, and was also placed in a lead coffin, in addition to a wooden casket containing the body of Mrs. Thomasina Goddard, who died in 1807. The vault was sealed by a massive slab of marble, which took 7 strong men to move. Surely the Chase daughters and Mrs. Goddard would be able to rest in peace. But that would not be the case. Not long after his daughter's suicide, the evil Thomas Chase suddenly died, some say by his own hand. His body was sealed in a heavy lead coffin, which took several men to carry. The huge marble slab was pulled back from the opening of the vault, and everyone was shocked by what they saw inside. The coffins had been violently thrown about the stone burial chamber. Accounts stated that the caskets were in a confused state, having been apparently tossed from their places. With great effort, the coffins were placed back in an orderly fashion, with Thomas now joining them. The family hoped that would be the end of the strange affair, but over the next 8 years, each time the vault was unsealed, the coffins were found to have been thrown around, some standing upright, some upside down in seemingly impossible positions. Word of the moving coffins reached the governor of Barbados, Lord Combermere, and he personally inspected the Chase vault and ordered that the tomb be cemented shut, and his own seal was impressed in the wet cement to guarantee there would be no tampering. He also had sand placed on the floor of the vault to record the footprints of any possible intruder. But all attempts to stop the coffins from moving failed. Each time the vault was unsealed, the horrific scene of the violently disturbed coffins terrified onlookers. Can you imagine the fear of seeing the turmoil caused by the dead? I know this story scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. Some speculated that earthquakes had caused the movement, but no seismic activity was recorded during that time, and most importantly, no other coffins in the churchyard had been disturbed. Similarly, floodwaters were also dismissed as a possible cause. There was simply no rational and earthly explanation to the eerie phenomenon of the moving coffins of Barbados. Finally, in 1820, the family had had enough. All the coffins were removed from the vault and buried separately. The vault was never used again. It was a story that made quite an impression on me as a child. As an adult and a paranormal investigator, I was often asked what stories scared me when I was young, and the moving coffins were always at the top of my list. But while I remembered the basic details of the story over the decades, I had forgotten the location of the vault for some reason and confused it with a haunted location in Jamaica. Fast forward to 2020, when my husband Bob and I were enjoying a wonderful vacation on the beautiful beaches of Barbados. One morning, as we were getting ready to go out for breakfast, Bob was in the shower and I was flipping through one of those tourist information magazines that are in every hotel room. Under Things to Do, I saw something about an unusual and spooky place to visit on the island, which of course immediately caught my attention. I had a moment of disconnect as I read the little paragraph about the infamous Chase Vault and its moving coffins. I was like, no, that's not right. That's not here. But slowly it sunk in that not only did the vault still exist, but it was indeed on Barbados and only about a 10-minute drive from our hotel. I can't remember exactly what I started shouting, but Bob stuck his head out of the shower to ask what I was shouting about. I was so excited, and I was rambling on about the story I read as a kid and how it scared the crap out of me, and now I had a chance to actually see the vault after all these years. I could barely contain myself, and as soon as we finished breakfast, we were on our way to the churchyard where the terrifying Chase Vault still sat in all its mysterious glory. Given the fact that the vault was originally constructed in 1742, I was very surprised at how well preserved it was. I was also surprised that you could descend the staircase to the vault door, and then absolutely shocked that the barred door swung open when I pushed it. So there I was, literally standing on the threshold of a childhood nightmare. What do I do? Stop there? Or face my fear and step into possibly one of the most paranormally twisted places on Earth? When I started investigating haunted sites over 25 years ago, I decided that if I ran every time I got scared, I wouldn't gather much evidence. So while the little kid in me was silently screaming in terror, the seasoned ghost investigator took a deep breath and entered the vault. Despite the warm tropical air, every hair stood on end and I was covered in goosebumps. Still, I stood my ground, took photos, and examined the stone construction and masonry, all the while picturing the frightening scene from 200 years ago. The interior was very small, certainly making a very tight space to try to maneuver big lead coffins. I recalled reading what an effort it was just to get the coffins down the steep staircase and through the narrow doorway. Once inside, it couldn't have been easy for a couple of men to position the coffins into neat stacks. The thought of how the coffins then repositioned themselves in the sealed vault just made my blood run cold. And there was another sensation sweeping through my body. Fear. Fear and the growing feeling of being trapped, buried alive in that vault, a vault that would be sealed shut once a fresh corpse was placed inside. Perhaps it was just my imagination, but my rational mind was quickly losing ground to the swelling tidal wave of terror. I had to get out of there and back into the sunlight and fresh air, out of the realm of the dead and back into the world of the living. Do I have any proof that there is something paranormal at the Chase Vault? Well, we took 4 videos of me talking about the vault, and every single one of them, the audio was completely obscured by static. Every other video we took on our vacation in Barbados came out loud and clear, but something had interfered with every video at the vault. So what do I think happened at the Chase Vault in Barbados? Do I really believe there's some unusual force there? The short answer is hell yes. But don't take my word for it. Next time you're looking for a warm winter getaway, consider the beautiful beaches, great food, and friendly people of Barbados. And if you have the courage, step out of the bright sunlight and down into the darkness of the Chase Vault. And just pray that the darkness doesn't follow you home. I've been investigating haunted sites and writing about them for over 25 years. Please check out some of my many ghost books as well as other books on Amazon, available in both paperback and ebook. Thanks for listening.